This video series discusses the 10 greatest lies told about Jesus and God. In this second video, we will make the case that the Christian God is a product of human imagination. The current view of God is that of a powerful entity having human-like characteristics, and this view persists despite its most troubling implications. Humans desire love, food, attention, and safety, all rooted in a rational assessment of things that best support their survival. As highly evolved entities, humans developed survival characteristics that prepared them to navigate the threats in their environment. These characteristics include a variety of physical and emotional responses to pain, love, fear, anger, and opportunities. In this regard, humans are finely tuned entities whose primary characteristics evolved around a specific set of survival needs. Any description of God using human-like terms is understandable, but is this view of God correct or even reasonable? Are we making claims and drawing conclusions about God, based on our own needs and fears? In other words, have we somehow created a God that fits the image we have of ourselves? Well, as we shall demonstrate, this is exactly what humans have done. Throughout history, numerous religions have depicted God with human-like characteristics and emotions. An exploration of the religious practices of ancient civilizations dating back to 3500 BC, such as the early Egyptians and those in the Mesopotamian region, including the Sumerians, Akkadians, and Babylonians, reveals that these diverse cultures worshipped multiple gods. These cultures and societies are believed to have greatly influenced the Greeks and Romans, who also adopted the practice of polytheistic worship. One remarkable commonality among these early cultures is their portrayal of gods as transactional beings, who grant favors in exchange for adoration and worship. This commonality among the cultures is not coincidental, but reflects a deeply ingrained belief that humans share similar personalities and characteristics with the gods they believed created them. In other words, they viewed the gods as bigger and more powerful versions of themselves. These ancient religious practices predate Christianity, which emerged with the worship of a single god. Nevertheless, the influences and beliefs about God persisted across these cultures even after the transition from polytheism to monotheism. Nowhere is this more evident than in the claim made in Genesis chapter 1 verse 27, which states, "God created man in his own image." Ancient gods, goddesses or genderless gods, are the mythical figures early humans believed were responsible for bringing the world into existence. They also believed they could communicate with these gods through worship, prayer, and sacrifice. In return, the gods would make their lands fertile and help defeat their enemies. Some of these civilizations believed the gods had very little direct contact with humans, while others believed the gods lived among humans and influenced their day-to-day behavior. For example, stories about the ancient Greek civilization depicted mythical gods like Zeus, Apollo, Poseidon, Hades, and Ares. These different gods were thought to have specific powers over the earth, sea, and sky, and many believed the gods would grant favors to humans in return for love and worship. The ancient gods were self-centered and jealous, and many believed they would unleash their rage by summoning destructive forces whenever humans made them angry. Today, many of our ideas about God have been shaped by the characteristics and myths of the ancient gods. The early Roman civilization also had similar gods with functions almost identical to those of the Greek gods. Roman gods like Venus, Mars, Mercury, Saturn, Neptune, and Jupiter were so popular, the planets in our solar system were named after them. The Christian God is the equivalent of all the ancient gods rolled into either one god, or three gods, depending on how the text is interpreted. Much time and effort have been spent over the last 2,000 years seeking to untangle this idea, leaving believers exhausted and divided. Most Christians do not try explaining this idea anymore, and instead have adopted a response that is admittedly a surrender to their faith. Humans desire more of everything: power, love, conquests, and longer lives, so we create gods with all the capabilities we envy. If we could redesign ourselves, we would likely choose immortality, fulfilling our desire to live forever. We would also opt for greater power and invincibility to defeat our enemies. Lastly, we would want the ability to manipulate and control the elements of the earth, sky, and ocean, in order to secure our food supply. These are the very powers we have attributed to the gods we've created. In return, we offer prayers, worship, and sacrifices as payment for these services. Daily the cries of these believers echo toward the heavens, in solemn pleas to God to release His favors and withhold His anger. The Christian God has been designed with attributes of love, rage, anger, jealousy, and other human emotions. This tradition follows a well-established historical pattern and practice of creating powerful mythical entities to respond to our hopes, aspirations, and fears. So, if the biblical God is a product of human imagination, what is the true and accurate portrayal of God? Consider first the possibility that immortality is not a gift, but is instead a consequence of who we are, in relation to God. Belief in this God is not required, and the frequent recreations of God will not change who or what God is. Here is a story of Bo, a fish who left his home in search of the ocean in which he lives. Bo has limited information about the ocean but is convinced he will find it. Years later, Bo returns home and confidently declares that he found the elusive ocean. However, what he describes as the ocean actually fits the description of a blue shark. His elders, excited by the discovery, journey immediately to the other side of the ocean to share the news with the high priest of a distant clan. On arrival, Bo and his elders are met by the high priest, who also announces that weeks earlier, they too had discovered the ocean. The high priest then confidently describes the ocean, but what he provides fits the description of a red octopus. The fish in our story are searching for the ocean in which they live, making it unlikely they will find it. Additionally, they do not know what to look for, and so does not know they are trying to find something that isn't lost. God, much like the ocean, is not lost. We just need to learn how to recognize Him. Now, consider the possibility of discovering a God not based on culture, race, religion, language, location, or gender, where everything and everyone in the universe is spiritually connected to that God. What would that God be, and how might we describe Him? The following are some of the inspirations I received during my search for a deeper understanding of God. So, what is God? Every attempt to fully define God is likely to fall short because God is infinite and cannot be confined within the pages of books. As humans, we can only describe aspects of God that help us understand the physical world, and then endeavor to establish the connection between this physical world and God. The following paragraphs introduces the new God, and explains why everything we know, much like an umbilical cord, is connected to that God. Our generation is faced with profound questions about God, the universe, and ourselves. For instance, we recognize that we inhabit a life-creating universe, but we remain uncertain about why. Religion teaches that God is the intelligent designer of the universe, yet, this seems contradictory to the idea that God is omnipotent and self-sufficient. Take a moment and think about this. Why would a truly self-sufficient entity require a universe, humans, or anything? However, we know that the universe and humans exist. So, did we evolve from nothing? Or are we just the dust of stars chanced into existence by the randomness of a large uncaring universe? Does God only reside in our imaginations? These questions and more are provided with definitive answers once we uncover the true nature of God. Albert Einstein once said, "The more I study science, the more I believe in God." One possible interpretation of his thoughts is that God may not be what we think, but that does not mean He does not exist. Now, imagine a scenario where there is absolutely nothing in existence, no universe, humans, and no dimensions of space, or time. To exist within this void, an entity would need to be non-physical because of the absence of space, and it would be immortal and not age because of the absence of time. Because this entity exists outside the physical realm, let us call it a spiritual entity. But, how might we demonstrate that such an entity exists? First, we need to look for signs of intelligence. In our physical universe, every entity is comprised of subatomic elemental particles. These particles display intelligence in their interactions, and possess the adaptability to form stable atomic structures. This establishes that intelligent particles exist, and so it is reasonable to conclude that the source of these particles is also intelligent. But what is the source of these intelligent particles? Well, following from our discussions, if we start from the point where nothing physical is in existence, then the particles could only have originated from the non-physical spiritual entity. This would indicate that the unknown spiritual entity is intelligent. Additionally, physical particles need the dimensions of space and time for their existence, and so, these dimensions had to be created the moment these particles came into being. This not only affirms the intelligence of the spiritual entity, but also highlights its significant power, given that its expressions have the ability to trigger the creation of spatial and temporal dimensions. It should also be evident that an entity possessing such immense intelligence and power must inherently be self-sufficient, and consequently has no needs. God is a single all-powerful spiritual entity we call consciousness. Small particles of intelligent physical matter are spontaneously and continuously being expressed from this consciousness. As these particles interact, they begin to combine in an intelligent process of self-creation. This unsupervised interaction unfolds along an evolutionary timeline, with different combination resulting in the creation of every physical entity that we observe. All physical entities, including the universe and humans, are the result of this intelligent self-creation known as the creation process. This is how the universe and humanity began, and this describes the relationship between humanity, the universe, and an intelligent all-powerful consciousness we call God. In an upcoming video, we will answer 30 of the most crucial questions about God. But for now, let's explore the first 3 questions and their corresponding answers, all based on inspirations about the nature of God. Number 1. Did God create the universe or humans? The answer is no. God is a singular, all-powerful spiritual consciousness with no needs. Consequently, God does not have to create humans, the universe, or anything else. Number 2. Did humans and the universe come into existence because of God? The answer is yes. God stands as the ultimate source of all intelligent matter in the universe. However, the process of creation was not driven by a deliberate intention to design or create anything, because God has no needs. Instead, the emergence of matter from God is regarded as a naturally occurring, spontaneous, and continuous phenomenon. As an example, breathing is a spontaneous, natural emission from humans. We don't consciously think about it. Instead, it occurs naturally as a result of what we are. During the act of breathing, our bodies release a mixture of gases, primarily including nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide, and various other gases. These gases are then free to react with other elements, often leading to outcomes that are neither deliberate nor intended. Number 3. Does God desire love or worship? Well, the answer is no, because God is not like humans, and does not have human emotions, needs, or their motivations. God therefore desires nothing from humans. If you found this video informative, please like, subscribe, and share to stay updated. In our next video, we will refute the claim that God created humans, and explore the lesser-known knowledge that most humans are at the first stage of an awakening. The next stage involves a transition to a higher state of awareness called the Second Awakening. Much of the information in this video is extracted from my recent book entitled, Welcome to the New God: Truths About God and Who We Are. A link to this book is in the description below.